The 1492 Algorithm 2.0. Prologue, The Unchosen Future. The Horizon Held. From the Keeper's Archive.
They came across the water in 3 small vessels, not like monsters, not like gods, but like men who had been staring too long at an empty line and decided the emptiness must be wrong. Their sails were stiff with salt, their hands were cracked by rope, their prayers were tangled with hunger, they had charts that ended in guesses. And yet, they arrived with certainty, not because they understood the world, but because their need required it to be understandable. The shore they touched did not greet them with fire. It greeted them with quiet, palm shadows, warm sand, the heavy, patient breathing of an unfamiliar land. And then, people, not hidden, not trembling. Present, watching. The first exchange was not words, it was posture. A hand not reaching for a weapon, a gaze not dropping, a distance held politely, a kind of welcome that did not invite, but did not reject. They were given water, not feasts, not celebration, water. A small kindness offered with careful eyes. Because the people of this coast had an older knowledge than conquest, they knew that strangers arrive in many forms, and that need can wear a smile. The visitors spoke through gestures and urgency. They pointed to the sea behind them as if to say, "We came far, therefore we are meant to be here." They lifted objects, glass, metal, bright cloth, as if brightness itself could purchase belonging. Their leader smiled the way people smile when they have promised something to someone far away and must now deliver proof. The hosts listened. They listened the way a forest listens to footsteps. They did not rush to translate. They did not rush to trust. They simply observed. That night, the coastal leaders gathered, not as war council, as threshold council. They did not ask, "Are these men dangerous?" They asked, "What follows them?" Because danger is not always in the hand. Sometimes it is in the story the hand will tell later. They had seen visitors before from neighboring rivers, from inland plains, from distant islands carried by storms. They understood trade. They understood curiosity. But they also understood a pattern older than any single culture. When someone returns home with a new hunger, it rarely stays personal. It becomes policy. It becomes religion. It becomes destiny. Before dawn, they made their decision, not to punish, not to dominate, to protect, to prevent the future from arriving too early. In the morning, they approached the ships, not with weapons. With torches, held low, not raised. A gesture that could mean ceremony or warning or both. The visitors stiffened. Hands went to hilts, but the hosts did not close distance quickly. They moved slowly, as if moving too fast might invite panic. A translator, imperfect, fragile, was brought forward. Someone who knew just enough of both languages to carry intention without carrying nuance. The message was delivered gently, word by word, like placing stones in a line. You are here. You may remain here. You may live. You may learn. But you may not return across the water. There was a long pause. The visitors laughed at first. A disbelief laugh, the kind people make when they think they have misheard the universe. Then the laughter thinned into anger, then into pleading, then into something quieter, the dawning realization that the horizon had been held by someone else's hand. The hosts continued, "If you return, you will bring more. If you bring more, you will bring hunger. If you bring hunger, the land will become a story told by strangers." They did not say conquest. They did not say empire. They did not need those words. They had already seen the shape of them in smaller forms. The visitors demanded negotiation. Demands are not language, they are pressure. But pressure does not always move stone. Sometimes it reveals it. The hosts made an offering. Not gold, not maps. seeds, food, shelter, a place among them. A life, but not a passage back. And then, with sorrow that did not need translation, they lit the ships. The burning was slow, not frenzy, not hatred, a controlled fire, like a ritual performed for something dangerous that must be ended without becoming monstrous. Pitch sighed, wood cracked open like old bone, canvas folded inward, collapsing gently, as if the ships were finally exhaling after holding the sea too long. Smoke rose in clean columns. No cheering, no celebration, only watching. Even those who had decided looked strained, as if decision itself were a wound. The visitors stood on the shore and watched their return path become ash. Some fell to their knees. Some shouted at a sky that did not answer. Some stared west until the stare became empty. When the last mast gave way, the ocean behind it looked wider than it had the day before. Not because the ocean changed, because the idea of going back had vanished. The hosts did not imprison them. They did not bind them. They did not humiliate them. They simply did what is hardest for most civilizations. They refused to let curiosity become a pipeline. They refused to let a first contact become a future contract. The strangers were allowed to stay. Some learned new names. Some learned new ways to breathe. Some never stopped grieving the loss of the world they came from and the world they had promised to deliver to their kings. Years passed. Across the ocean, questions were asked. Where is he? Where are the ships? Where is the proof? Was there land? Was there treasure? Was there a mistake? No answer ever returned, no triumphant report, no gold-laden hold, no map inked with certainty. Only silence. And in that silence, the world remained plural a little longer. This was not a victory, it was a boundary, a held horizon, a decision made by people who understood something most histories forget. That sometimes the most powerful act is not to strike, but to prevent the story from multiplying.
Still, we traverse. Stay tuned for more from Wanderer Chronicles Radio. Thanks for listening.